Welcome to this episode of the Million Dollar Mastermind. I'm Larry Weidel, and before we get started, if you want to know exactly how to win again and again, go to weidelonwinning.com/webinar now to watch something I've put together for you. Now let's get going into this episode of Million Dollar Mastermind. I am here today with Samy Kobrosly. And did I say that right?
You nailed it, brother. Nailed it, man.
I am here with Samy Kobrosly, and we're going to talk about winning. And Samy has just gotten a crash course here over the last few years about how you navigate the confusing, overwhelming odds against breaking out of the mass of people who want to do something big, and they actually do something big.
Yeah.
It's you got to navigate yourself through the fire there, after you get the big idea. So Samy, your company, you're a co-founder of Snacklins, as I understand it, correct?
See it right behind me on the wall.
Absolutely. And you're in your warehouse, your factory right now. So anybody hears any noise, that's because Samy's working. And your company is plant-based crisp snacks. And you got I don't know how long have you been doing that?
So
you're from the time you had an idea.
Yeah, honestly, it was a bar bet that's just gotten really out of hand since then. About 5 years ago, a buddy of mine bet me at the bar to make a vegan pork rind. And so I went home and I was like, all right, let me see if I can figure this out. But what we ended up having, wasn't just this like plant-based chicharron. You know what I mean? It was like this crunchy, salty, delicious snack. And, everything just kind of snowballed since then. But yeah, it was a bar bet about 5 years ago.
What? Obviously, you selected the correct bar bet to pursue. Mm-hmm. we won't get into some of the other bar bets that were on the table, and Lord knows where that would have led you. But you selected the correct one to pursue, and by let's see, was it 2019 or so? A couple 3 years ago, you were on. You got enough to where you were on Shark Tank. You got $250,000 for 5% equity and 5% of advisory shares. And then you exploded to 1.8 million in sales. Your operating costs are low, and you're rated in one of the top food trends of 2019 by Whole Foods. You're not only in Whole Foods, you're rated as one of the top trends, and sold at Amazon, Walmart, Thrive Market, 7-Eleven in LA, and probably more places breaking that all the time. But congratulations, Samy. That's incredible.
Thank you. Yeah, like we said. So I think, when you talk about winning, for us, it was this bar bet to make a vegan pork rind, right? But we were making them. We were putting them in like little bags. We were selling them at some local stores, some breweries. And we started to see that we were selling a lot. And we're like, well, why are we selling a lot? Because it can't be this vegan pork rind. Like, what else is there? What is the reason behind that? And that's kind of how we fall into that plant crisp. Like, we realized that people were buying Snacklins because it was a delicious snack that had simple ingredients. You know what I mean? It was mushrooms, onions, yucca. It was, healthy. It was low in calories. It was low in sodium. Like, they could eat the whole bag and it's 90 calories. And so, we've kind of listened to that audience. We listen to our customers, and, we've pivoted and kind of moved towards them, and, and really focused and flourished because of that.
Yeah. As opposed to eating the whole bag and it's 1,000 calories,
Exactly. Like, I tell people this, like, I've never been one, and they're like, the serving size is 8 chips. Like, I give them the middle finger and I walk on. You know what I mean? Like, I've never eaten 8 chips in my life. I've never only had 2 Oreos. So, like, I don't want to hear these serving size things. And so, that was the mentality behind Snacklins. Like, you eat that whole bag, like that single serving size. It's filling. It's the exact same size as all the other competitors out there. And it's a filling bag of chips, and it's delicious, first and foremost.
Yeah. And so how did you, did you have a background in food preparation and the food world?
Somewhat and somewhat no. My prior job before this I was a radio morning show host for a pop station in Washington, D.C.
Is that right?
Shout out Hot 99.5. Yeah, so I worked there from like 20 till whatever. But while I was doing that, I befriended a lot of people in the restaurant industry. And you kind of realize that, people in the restaurant industry, they work at 3 and they work till late. If you work a morning show, you'll work from 3 a.m. and you're off by noon. So we all had that noon to 3 time off. Yeah. And I ended up hanging out with a lot of restaurant folks because of that, because everyone else was at a real job, except for them. They weren't going yet. They were like, I don't go to my real job for another 3 hours.
Yeah.
And just befriending a bunch of like chefs and restaurateurs, I started staging, I just want to come in and learn is what I'd ask them, and I'd come in and help out for a couple days, chopping stuff up and helping out, and over the years, I've worked or staged at everything from dive bars to Michelin, to restaurants in the Michelin Guide. I worked at a bakery forever. Like I loved my bakery job. It was probably my favorite job of all time. I made a crap ton of bread all the time. And I just, I think that, I developed this, reputation in the area amongst friends that's kind of making weird stuff and always experimenting and, being into that. And so I think that mixed with just the timing of, oh, wow, one of these crazy experiments I made, like people actually like it. It wasn't that I made it thinking I'm going to start a company. We made it just for awesome to have it. And then our friend that owned a brewery was like, yo, dude, these are great. Can you come by this weekend and just like sell them to people at the brewery? Like it would be huge. We'll give you a free beer. And we're like, that's awesome. So we took the free beer. You know what I mean? Like we just jumped at that opportunity. We're like, okay, while we were there that weekend, someone that owns a local grocery store here in DC called Glenn's Garden Market, they just approached us and they said, hey, these are great guys. And if you guys actually like put these in real bags, got yourself a logo, like figured out a name, like put nutrition facts on it, like people would buy these vegan pork rinds. Like this is a great idea. And that's what kind of started us into doing that. We started off with that one store, so we went from free beer to selling this in one store as a side hustle. And sooner or later, after a year or so I was running out of my job every day just so I could work on Snacklins, and I was cutting down on my time working just so I could help out with Snacklins. And then, slowly my side hustle became, the real job. And, since then, we've grown. Like I'm right now, you can't see it from my angle, but there's a 10,000 square foot manufacturing facility back there, so from starting off with making it in my apartment, for my friends, pretty awesome to know that you got, 20 people back there working right now, just making a ton of chips, a ton of snacks.
Well, it's staggering because of the short time frame that it happened. And
and I think part of it also is like, that we took control of that manufacturing. I think a lot of people, there are, I guess, entrepreneurs, whatever they are, like a lot of people are looking for a shortcut, and so if they make something delicious, they go, well, who can make this for me, right? Who can make this for me cheaper than I'm making it now? Where we said, well, we don't want to be held accountable for that. We don't want to be giving up our, those profit margins. You don't want to even be like, just the fluidity that we have, like the nimbleness that we have to be able to jump in to do something new.
Yeah.
We have to have our own manufacturing facility for that. And so, invest in that manufacturing facility really helped us because it's not about us trying to source and find new things. Like we already know where all that is. All we have to do is make more snacks.
Yeah. And the idea to take that approach, how did you come to that conclusion, or why did you know that was the right way to move rather than follow the way other people go?
Funny. I was going to say, in hindsight, it's actually pretty funny because it was clearly the right move, and it's been the best move that we've ever made is owning our own manufacturing, and especially owning like the IP, the IP manufacturing. So all the manufacturing that kind of makes us special, like we do that in-house. No one else sees that. No one else knows what we're doing. And that was honestly, it wasn't that I had some grand scheme to one day do that. It was out of necessity. It was the fact that we reached out to all these other people that manufactured snacks and said, hey, can you make our snacks? And they go, oh, no, you guys use fresh vegetables? No, sorry, we can't, And it was that necessity trying to find somebody that could make my recipe, to take my recipe and just execute on a larger scale that no one could. And so that led me to, the internet. And from the internet, I went to China. You know what I mean? And so the internet led me to China, and I just was looking at machines and looking at all these pieces, and I ended up traveling around to different cities in China my first time, going to a bunch of manufacturing facilities, looking at what they were doing, looking at the things, kind of piecemealing a bunch of different pieces together, and modifying some machines.
Let's get this
and
straight.
Boom.
Let's get this straight. Here you are starting this thing up from a bar bet, and in a short period of time, you're touring factories and meeting people in China.
I was literally just on like Alibaba, reaching out to everyone I could, and they'd be like, "Oh, where are you at? Oh, okay, cool." And I was just like setting up. I knew I wanted to check out these like 5 factories, and I just had to figure out how to get there. So I remember flying into Beijing. I had a bunch of random train tickets, a bunch of random hotel reservations, and all I knew was that I'd be in this city for 24 hours just so that I could possibly have that 2-hour meeting or 3-hour meeting with that manufacturer, and I don't know. It is a little bit crazy, I guess. But at the time, it seemed like that's what you have to do. Like, that's the only thing I know what to do. Like, that's the only way I can do it. Like, what else am I going to do?
Hey, listen, there's a lot of information online, but there aren't a lot of people who've actually done something. In my case, I've actually built a successful business that's accrued over $5 billion in assets under management and has done well even during trying times. Now, if you want to know exactly how I've done this, go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now. I've compressed a decade of learning into 5 short weeks just for those of you who want to give yourself an incredible advantage and are tired of waiting and watching others move up.
Yeah, it reminds me of like Phil Knight with Nike. He was a track guy and used track shoes, and he knew the Japanese had great shoes, but they didn't sell them in the United States. And so he had this great idea. I'm going to get these shoes. In fact, I've got a friend who knew him when he worked in the back of a big department store there and in the little athletic section and sold shoes, and
that's awesome.
He knew him before, and he's living with his parents, and he gets a suit. He buys a suit and makes a trip to Japan and tours all of the factories there. And in his suit, like, I want to represent you in the United States. And he found one that would do it. And that's how the whole thing started, know.
But it's what you got to do. And honestly, like, it's not that we went to China. I mean, it's almost like that Phil Knight approach. He knew, like, well, the people that are making the best athletic shoes are in Japan, right? I looked, and there was companies that make the same machinery I wanted to here, but when you start to break it down in the components, you realize, wait, these are all coming from someone else. Who is that someone else? And it was doing that research that led me to that someone else, that person who's the people that are making all the components that they're assembling in Germany. Who are the people that are this? Because I knew that I couldn't have something that was pre-made. Like, I didn't have a lot of space. I wasn't going to have a lot of space. I didn't have a lot of a budget, right? So I knew I needed something that could fit my budget and also could fit the space I had. And so I figured I might as well just go to the people that are making it from the get-go for them, and I can have them customize it myself. I can have them do this myself, and I could kind of do all that myself, and it was out of necessity. But now since then, I love going back. We have amazing partners over there that we work with, and
it sounds to me now, Sammy, like you had a full-time job. You started this, and it was a part-time job, eventually became full-time, but it was, but what I'm hearing is that you came full-time and you saw, we need things. We need to figure stuff out. We're never going to go anywhere unless we get this in place, and the other. And your full-time job became, how can we expand? And so you kept the other stuff going, making the Snacklins and distributing them and stuff like that. That was still going on while you were doing all this other investigation and getting other things lined up. Is that right?
I mean, yeah, you got to talk. I mean, we were in 500 stores before we stopped, like, actually hand making everything. You know what I mean? Like, we were hand doing the entire process. So, like, it started off with me going home. I would start making Snacklins, and I would just make a bunch of stuff, get it all ready to go to bed at 2 a.m., wake up at 6 a.m., crank out some more, go to my job, you know, and I was doing that. By the time we got to a point that I was like, I need help, right? We
Yeah.
hired Sylvia, who's, you know, she's our employee number 2. Like, her and I, baby, we've killed it, right? And Sylvia, we brought her on. She needed a part-time job in the evening. We go, great. I give you some hours. And I was, you know, I was helping her out. I was leaving, serving tables at a restaurant just so that I could make enough money so that I could pay her for the hours she had, plus have some cash left over so that I could do stuff. And then, you know, we'd go back during the daytime again. During the daytime, I'd be doing deliveries. I'd be finishing up labeling. I'd be kind of working on the business side of it. Evening came, Sylvia would start making snacks again. I would serve tables, save that money from the table so I could pay her salary and still have a little bit left over so I could kind of get to the next day, you know. And it was that constant, and it's not like it's, and there's nothing wrong with people that think it all out beforehand and actually build the facility first and foremost. Say, I want to make this product, so if I want to make this, I want to do this. We just never planned on it, you know, and we kind of slow rolled our way into that. And by doing so, you know, we were hand making everything. And so, yeah, there was a time that I looked and I go, Sylvia, we've got 2 people here working full time and we're only making this much. Like, we can never make enough money to build this into like a real company or like ever make enough snacks. We have to find ways to do more, and to do more without it being so labor intensive, you know, like, so we still have, and, you know, we look by, like, we've got a room full of machines in the back, but we still have the exact same people that have been working on this for years. You know what I mean? Wow. And so as efficiencies increased, it's not that we got rid of our team. No. We now can make more with the same people that we had, you know, where a lot of people looked at it as well, I can make more, so now I need less people. We said, no. We can now use those people and make even more than we did beforehand, right? With these efficiencies in place.
Right. And what, it's great to have the master's program and the business degrees and this. There's nothing wrong with that. However, and it's nothing wrong with having plenty of funding coming out of the gate. But a lot of times, all the time, you don't know what you don't know. And when you start, a lot of times you think you're smarter than you are when you have degrees. And, you know, you have the formal training and this, that, the other. You feel like you're a little bit smarter than everybody else. And a little bit freer to spend all that cash. You know, if you got a lot of rich friends who give you a lot of money, and a lot of people tell me that if they'd had the money early on, they would have spent it on the wrong things. And it was good for them that they had to work their way up. Because I'd submit to you, you learned what you needed to know during that process from, you know, because you're thinking about it all the time. You're working around the clock, and you got that subconscious, genius, instinctive, creative mind working on solving problems and looking for solutions. And you're discovering things. You know, when you leave your job, you go out, you're doing this, and you learn things that you could not learn any other way. But that prepped you to when you got in front of people in China. They knew this guy was a real deal. He's going somewhere because you had created that energy, that vibe, that instinct, that experience. And winners can smell winners, you know. And if you did not have that, if you just fallen out of bed the first week out of putting the Snacklins idea together and the first trip to the beer company and then gone to China, they were probably not giving you the time of day. But
I think it's also it's the respect you gain from taking the time to learn the craft, right? And a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people say, I have this idea, I want to make these granola bars that are keto this, and I want to do it. And I go, all right, well, hold on, let's back it up. A, have you made granola bars in the past? Like, do you make granola bars? Like, did you work in food beforehand, or just like an idea? Like, B, like, what do you know about food manufacturing? And I realized that like when I was there, those first 2 years when we were just hand making everything, I spent a lot of time just trying to learn as much as possible, so that when I do walk in, I mean, John, our operations director here, him and I, he's my age, so we're both young in our early 30s, right, mid 30s, and when we walk down into a factory, we can sit there and talk to someone who's been working for every major CPG brand you can imagine for the past 50 years, 40 years. And when they start talking about machines, when they're walking down the production line, they know that we're not just some marketing guy. Like, they go, oh, these guys actually know about the machines. Like, they see us inspecting the machines, and that's what I'm into. Like, I have to learn all that because I don't want to just be someone who goes, oh, well, I have a guy for that. Like, no,
Yeah.
I want to be just as good as my guy for that. So that way,
Yeah.
when I speak to my guy for that, he's not just pulling one over on me. I'm not there sticking to this. Like, I actually know what I'm talking about. And so when I walk in these situations, I can speak from a voice of authority because they go, hey, he may has not been doing it for 40 years like me, but he's been deep into it for the past 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And he definitely has learned what he needs to know. And so I can talk to these guys, and I was like, dude, what kind of machine does? They go, oh man, that's called an equilibrator, brother. And I was like,
Yeah.
like I would never know that.
Right.
But they at least told me as opposed to just like some Joe Schmo, because they go, hey man, we've seen you trying to learn. And like,
Yeah.
straight up, like Kevin Blesi, our CEO, like he is, he's the reason for a lot of our most recent success, and that's because his guidance and his leadership has left me so that I can do what I am great at. And that is make snacks. And all I want to do is make snacks. Like and that's what you need. I'm not I'm not the kind of entrepreneur that says, after this, I'm going to go start a car company. And then after this, I'm going to do this. I got this tech platform and then want to start a for-profit school. Like, no. I want to know everything about snacks. I want to work in snacks. Like, I truly love snacks. And I just happen to be lucky enough that my snack idea has led me to the place I'm in now where I can, work with all these great people. But, I love making snacks. And I do everything I can to learn more about snacks. And at that raw, stupidest way, like, that's where I attribute a lot of my success to.
Thanks so much, Samy. This has just been fantastic. Kind of get into the first phase of your thinking and your approach, and it just strips away the whole thing of objections, of barriers to entry into the business world that most people have. I don't have this. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have a lot of education. I don't have a lot of insider contacts and things like that.
But I got a lot of blisters and cuts, baby. And that's all that matters. So.
Well, thanks so much, Samy. Can't wait till the next time. Thanks for taking your time.
Absolutely, man. Great talking to you.
If you enjoyed what you've heard and are dead serious about finding out for yourself exactly how this works in the real world, I've taken the most valuable business lessons I've learned over 40 years and put them into something for you to watch. Go to whiteelementwinning.com/webinar now in order to move up as fast as possible. I'm Larry Weidel, and I run the $1 Million Mastermind. Go, go, go.